Ladies and gentlemen, the Honourable Prime Minister enters, which he will. May I now invite Mr. Vineet Jain to say a few words welcoming the Prime Minister.
Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, Finance Minister Shri Arun Jaitley, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Economic Times Global Business Summit. It is particularly appropriate that this summit is taking place at the start of the new year and what seems like the dawn of a new era under the dynamic leadership of our Prime Minister. Indeed, the pace, speed and determination with which the government is working has come as a breath of fresh air and rekindled hopes of many in the audience. The big picture is that the government is moving rapidly to improve the ease of doing business in India. It has work to do, given India's low rank of 142 on the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business list. 3/4 of India's startups prefer to base themselves outside India in places such as Singapore, though their business activities are entirely in India. The Make in India initiative is long overdue, and it recognizes the importance of manufacturing, one of the building blocks of a modern economy. India currently spends billions of dollars importing cellular and electronic items. In the years to come, we hope that these will be made in India. Ladies and gentlemen, economic reforms are only one of the many building blocks of a rising India. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for, to hear our chief guest of the evening, the man who captured the imagination of an entire generation. Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite the Prime Minister to deliver the keynote address.
My cabinet colleague, Sri Arun Jaitley ji, Sri Vineet Jain, friends from India and abroad. I am happy to be here today to address this Global Business Summit. This is a good platform for bringing together economists and industry leaders. I compliment the Economic Times for organizing this event. The country had fallen into deep despair with two back-to-back years of below 4% growth and governance at rock bottom. A series of scams from telecom to coal had paralyzed the economy. We deviated from the dream of India as a land of opportunity. No longer we can afford the flight of capital and labor. The government must nurture an ecosystem where the economy is primed for growth, and growth promotes all-round development, where development is employment generating, and employment is enabled by skills, where skills are synced with production, and production is benchmarked to quality, where quality meets global standards and meeting global standards drive prosperity. Most importantly, this prosperity is for the welfare of all. That is my concept of economic good governance and all-round development. Friends, let me outline what we are doing to usher in this new spring. My government is moving fast in designing policies and laws to promote growth. First, we are committed to achieving the fiscal deficit target announced in the budget. That is why we have the Expenditure Management Commission to suggest cuts in wasteful expenditure. This way, we will make the rupee more productive and deliver maximum bang for the buck. Second, the petroleum sector has been major reforms. Diesel prices have been deregulated. This has opened up space for private players to enter into the petroleum retail. Gas prices have been linked to international prices. This will bring a new wave of investment. It will increase supplies. It will resolve problems in the key power sector. The poor have been included in the financial system. In a short span of 4 months, over 100 million new bank accounts have been opened under Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Soon, all accounts will be linked with Aadhaar. People's saving will rise. They will invest in new financial instruments. 1.2 billion people can hope for pensions and insurance. As the nation progress, these bank accounts will drive demand and growth. India is being made an attractive destination for investment. FDI caps have been raised to insurance and real estate. FDI and private investment are being promoted in defense and railways. The Land Acquisition Act has been amended to smoothen the process and speed up matters. This will give a thrust to infrastructure and manufacturing while protecting the compensation to farmers. Infrastructure is being given a boost. Greater investment is planned in railways and roads. We need to use technology to deliver good governance. Whether it is a simple one like biometric-based attendance, which has improved office attendance and work culture, or a cutting-edge one like space technology in mapping and planning. Friends, reforms are not an end itself. Reforms must have a concrete objective. The objective must be to improve the welfare of the people. Approaches may be many, but the goal is one. Take the case of tourism. It is an untapped economic activity. But tapping it requires a Swachh Bharat. It needs improvement in infrastructure and telecom connectivity. It requires better education and skill development. Therefore, a simple goal can generate reforms in multiple sectors. India is a $2 trillion economy today. Can we not dream of an India with a $20 trillion economy? Should we not create the environment for this to happen? We are preparing the ground for it. This is hard work. I know very well. This is hard work. Quick and easy reforms will not be enough for creating a fast-growing economy. That is our challenge, and that is what we aim to do. Digital India and Skill India are attempts in this direction. Reform, economic growth, progress, all are empty words if they do not translate into jobs. What we need is not just more production, but mass production and production by masses. Today, everyone is looking towards Asia for inspiration and growth. And within Asia, India is important. Swami Vivekananda had said, "Arise, awake, do not stop until the goal has been attained." This should inspire us all to achieve the vision of a new age India. Together, we can. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Jain, ladies and gentlemen, I think one of the consequences of this change environment in India is that people have been enthused at least to have a very large number of global conferences. And it's virtually become a occupational hazard for us, since you have to go to each one of them and then endeavor to say something different from what you said in the previous one. I was very encouraged when in Kolkata I was being introduced to investors who are setting up educational institutions, healthcare centers, hospitals, even hotels. And I had commented, if state after state start going on this track, probably what would result in the whole process is that India would succeed, irrespective of which political party you belong to, in having a shared national vision, at least on a few elementary things. We are concerned with the easy decision-making process, which eases the doing of business in India. I'd hate to see, during the tenure of our government, a situation where somebody takes a license for a telephone operation and ultimately finds that his entire investment has been confiscated because there was some corruption in the allocation system. So whether it's spectrum, whether it is coal, whether it is other mineral, we are laying down the benchmark that there will be no discretions involved. There will be a market mechanism to find out what the best price is. So this old concept in allocation of mineral, that first come, first serve. So the best printer gets the mineral resource. He reaches the office first on the day of opening of the mining requirement. Now, this obsolete concepts, we have just done away with them. We are looking at subsidy rationalization from the 1st of January after fuel, petrol, which was done by the previous government, diesel, which has been linked to the market by us. Now the LPG subsidy is going directly into the accounts. Hopefully, at some stage, we'll see India where we also are able to carve out a category who's not entitled to that subsidy. GST, I'm fairly certain that there is now broadly a consensus between the states. We made sure in the initial stages that we cushion the states, no state loses revenue. The idea behind the Niti Aayog really is that the old concept of one scheme, you had 130 schemes, then it became 67 schemes. And each scheme will apply to each centrally sponsored scheme to each state. So Punjab's requirement and Tripura's requirements are the same. That was the basis of these centrally sponsored schemes. So hopefully in the months to come, you'll see a much larger revenue in terms of percentage from the divisible pool also going to the states. It will lead to a greater empowerment of the states. And I think what's extremely important, and I've said this on more than one occasion now, we are going to see India which is more federal. So the regional aspirations are going to be met. We've spoken of cooperative federalism, but I am now going to see India which also sees what I've been terming as competitive federalism. So if somebody in the Congress party has a problem with the land ordinance, where we've corrected the 2013 Act, their party governments are fully welcome to implement the old law. We will certainly permit them. Let me see one of their chief ministers stand up and say that I'll follow what my central leadership is saying. And if they did that, then in a world of competitive federalism, the investor, like the consumer, is also the king. He has a choice between which country to invest in. He also has a choice which state to invest in. And therefore, states which are going to facilitate him more easily, the investor is going to pick and choose those states. And therefore, we have a great opportunity in this competitive environment, even qua other competitive economies, to offer the investors a legitimate choice as far as India is concerned. Thank you. That's all I had to say.
Finance Minister, it's always a pleasure to hear your views, and clearly you always inspire and enthuse the business community. Last decade or so, most part of the last decade has been, in some sense, a lost opportunity, being hobbled with the coalition politics. You are blessed with a very strong mandate, and as you rightly said, you're moving at a very fast clip. The worry sometimes we have is, despite a very decisive movement forward through ordinances, there may be need for a persuasive politics around the opposition as well. And if you recall, during the previous government, I had written a letter which was published in the ET on the front page itself, urging the opposition to cooperate. So while you must move forward, there's an opportunity for a joint session. I would say persuasive politics around some of the opposition, some of the semi-allies that you have may also be necessary. Can the industry take heart that one of the two options, either by way of a very strong, decisive move forward through ordinances or persuasive politics, Indian and global industry can be comforted that the reform agenda that you are moving forward will not get hampered?
I am not so sure how much the persuasion route will succeed. Each one of these important legislations, many of them, before the government took any steps, some of them I have personally handed it over, at least to the principal opposition party, that this is what we have on the agenda. So it's not that we just sprung a surprise out of the blue. And therefore, would your party like to consider it? So far, bad luck is that I have also not been able to persuade them to support legislations which they had introduced in Parliament. Therefore, I am not very sure whether the persuasion route will succeed. Some of the bills, I have no doubt, should ordinarily be passed in both houses of Parliament. If the persuasion doesn't work, then of course there is a constitutional mechanism. And I think that will be set into motion. And if they still obstruct, I think every year we have a couple of state assembly elections, and therefore what businesses call the creeping acquisition of the upper house is on. And and these kind of tactics may not last very long.
There is a perception that a lot of entrepreneurs are very uncomfortable about starting their businesses in India, and they are going off to Singapore and other countries. I'm sure you would have met several of them as part of your budget consultations. What are the steps that you would do to stem that flight of entrepreneurial ideas from India?
We did announce some steps in the finance bill, as also in the budget. And we thought that a lot of companies, Indian companies who are stationing their executives and professionals in Singapore, essentially because of a more favorable tax climate there, should shift base to India. It hasn't happened in a big way. The issue is under our serious examination.
Last year, for example, 2014, Britain invested in India more than the United States and Japan put together, $3.2 billion worth of investment. We have the single biggest foreign direct investment that any company has made in India in history was made by a British company, BP, in the oil and gas sector. And all of the major British companies are, of course, here in India. So it's a very strong story, but we want it to be stronger. We're very excited by what's happening here in India right now. It's a country with tremendous opportunity, tremendous potential. And we think that as Prime Minister Modi and his team make India an even better place to do business, you'll see even more British investment coming in. And that's good news for us and good news for India because, of course, it creates jobs and growth. You will remember the magnificent speech that Prime Minister Modi did from the ramparts of the Red Fort in August of last year, in which he laid out his plan to transform India. And he identified the priority sectors: health, education, infrastructure, power and manufacturing. Those are all sectors in which the UK has particular strengths, all sectors in which we think we can partner with India and with the government to help the Prime Minister in his goal of transforming the country. Just to take one of those examples, manufacturing. One of the announcements that the Prime Minister made was his launch of the Make in India campaign. Now, there are many British companies that already make in India. JCB, for example, manufacture their wonderful products here, not just for the Indian market, but for export. But there are many other British companies that are ready to partner with Indian companies in order to make together in India. Well, we get very good support from the Indian government. They are encouraging us to come to India. We are responding. And we also, of course, get very good investment into the UK from Indian companies. Tata, for example, are the owners of a famous British company, Jaguar Land Rover, and are now the biggest manufacturing employer in the UK. Essar own the second biggest oil refinery in the United Kingdom. Mahindra are just launching a new R&D centre in the UK. And in fact, Indian companies invest more now in the United Kingdom than they do in the rest of the European Union put together. That's obviously a very good situation. It's good for jobs and growth in Britain, and we want to see more Indian companies come to our country. We have our own minister here, Baroness Verma, who is here to represent the UK. I'm delighted that Britain is a partner country for the summit. I do think it makes a difference to the relationship between the two countries that we can meet and talk and identify new areas for cooperation, and I'm very confident that this event will do that. As I said, I'm delighted that we're a partner country for this event. Britain, of course, also wants to be a partner for India itself, and my ambition is that Britain will not just be a partner for India, which I think we already are, but that Britain will be India's partner of choice.
We believe that this government is committed towards improving the business climate in India, and we welcome the initial steps taken by them in this regard. USL is eager to play its part in Make in India becoming very successful. But for that, it is important that the ease of doing business is embraced and acted upon by the states as well, and not just the center. USL requires a whopping 2.5 lakh approvals and licenses every year, just to do business as usual. Let me be specific to the ask of the alcohol beverage industry. The state level tax and regulatory systems that govern the sale of alcohol vary hugely from state to state and thus make running our business very complex and burdensome. We look forward to the enlightened state excise commissioners developing streamlined tax and regulatory policies and would welcome the support of the central government in this task.